good morning, and welcome to another edition of Viewpoint on More Public Radio. I'm your host, Eddrick Osborne, and you can catch Viewpoint every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. on morepublicradiointernational.org. You can also catch us via viewpointradio.org. We are linked with SoundCloud. You can check every single interview that we put up. We're on Facebook, Twitter, at Viewpoint Radio. There's a host of ways to get a hold of us, and we're very glad that you're tuning in this morning. My guest this morning is Poetic Old Soul. She is a poet. She has published 2 books of poetry. We're going to talk about her latest book, her brand new book, A Divine Love High. And we're pleased to welcome her for her first appearance on Viewpoint. So how are you?
I am great. I'm blessed.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, and it must be a very exciting time. You have a brand new book out, so let's get right into it. Talk to us about A Divine Love High.
Well, A Divine Love High. This right here is my second baby, and it's basically about romance. It's about love. It's about, how should I say this? It's about a lot of things, but the main focus of this book is about love and romance, and how a young lady, such as myself, has fallen in love with another lady from a faraway distance. And she has been this inspiration and this muse. In fact, she's actually in the book, and she's the forward of the book, and her name is Annette Nena Rosa Ballestier. So, yes, I touched on a lot of things in this book, from, of course, love and romance to, about losing my mother, and about my nephew, wishing him a little happy birthday, and spiritual awakening, and about friendship and family. I'm a variety poet. I am a versatile poet, so I write about a whole bunch of things. There's haikus, there's quotes, and there's little storytelling. But basically, it's really a love story for all, but a love letter to one. And that's really what the take of A Divine Love High is about.
Now, writing is very personal. I can't think of a more intimate and immediate art form than writing or putting something down on paper. Given that writing is so personal, and the fact that you mentioned this is actually written about someone who you have feelings for, when you put something out like that, were there things where you said, maybe that's too personal, or are you the true artist that said, you know what, this is who I am and this is what I have to say?
Exactly. When it comes to expression and releasing what's in my soul and what's in my heart, in my spirit, I just have to let it out. I can't hold in what's brewing and burning inside of me. I can't sugarcoat it. I can't just be like, oh, let me not. I don't know if I should. No, I just let it all out. Regardless of how personal it gets, if people don't like what I write, then so be it. There's going to be somebody else who would enjoy it and love it. And so I just shoot it from the hip, and that's how I write my poetry. In fact, I have a little quote that I use on my YouTube channel, and it's raw and real. And that's what I tell people. I am raw and real. I'm raw and real. Whether it be poetry or just speaking my mind or otherwise. So that's usually how I write my piece. I just let it out and don't hold back.
This is Viewpoint on More Public Radio, and our guest is Poetic Old Soul. I love the name, by the way. Poetic Old Soul, and her second book, A Divine Love High, was recently published. And let me ask you quickly about your first book, Poetic Like Me. First books are always interesting as well, so talk to us about your first book.
Oh, that was an exciting time for that book to be released. Oh, gosh, it's a long story, so bear with me.
We got time.
Perfect. Oh, and by the way, thank you for complimenting on my name.
Oh yeah, people say it all the time. People have an old soul, or you see kids. That person's been here before. But I love that name, Poetic Old Soul. I like that.
It's perfect. Thank you. Can I tell you a quick story on that name?
Absolutely.
Well, Poetic Old Soul, I was originally going by the name of Versatility when I was speaking over at this poetry event a long time ago called Listen and Be Heard, which was in Vallejo. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm a versatile poet, and, I speak about all different topics, subjects, you name it. And so a lot of people, like you were saying earlier, a lot of people were telling me, Tiff, you have an old soul, you're so ahead of your time. And as young as I was, I started writing poetry when I was like about 21, 22 years old, give or take. People always say, oh, you have this old soul, and it's a lot has to do with the fact that I've always been around older people. I've listened to a lot of old school music. I have a huge record collection, and and I don't know. I don't know. It's the way I carry myself. People say, you're so mature for your age. And I'm like, well, thank you. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, I have an old soul. And, of course, being poetic and speaking my mind, and if I feel something brewing inside my soul, I write it. And so I'm like, okay, you are very poetic, Tiff. So I put two and two together. It was like, okay, Poetic Old Soul. That's perfect. So now about my book, Poetic Like Me. That was an awesome book. It still is. Both of my babies are awesome. Toot toot. Poetic Like Me is basically, the main focus about that book is about my mother, who passed away almost 3 years ago. And I was actually working on that book when my mom was still here on this earth. And so she was like, Tiff, write, just write, get your stuff released, do your poetry thing, because I'm not going to be here all your life. And so after she passed away on July 18th, 2011, the project just stopped altogether. But some way, somehow, Spirit was like, you got to pick it back up. You got to pick it back up. In fact, I was even continuing to write poetry even after my mom passed away. Through tears, I was writing pieces after pieces. And so I was like, okay, this is going to become a very emotional book. And the main thing about the book is the fact that I wrote about so many different topics and subjects that I was basically telling the people that it's, you're not alone in whatever you're going through in your life. If you read something in that book, you're going to be like, wow, okay, I'm not alone. Yeah, she went through that same thing, but I wanted to really focus in on the fact that, yeah, I lost my mother, and I want people to understand and feel and know what it feels like. Although I understand people have not, not a lot of people experience that.
Sure.
And tell me, I can't imagine what you're going through. I can't imagine. That frustrated me so much that I even had to write about it. And the poem was called Deeply Painful, Imagine What I'm Going Through. And so I just had to write that out. I wrote that like a week after my mom passed away. So, yeah, also it reaches out to those who have lost their loved ones, who has lost their mother or father or whoever they love and cherish so much, and just let them know you are not alone. You are not alone in what you're going through.
Let me get a quick reset. This is Viewpoint on More Public Radio, and our guest is Poetic Old Soul. Her brand new book, A Divine Love High, is available at Amazon, along with her first book, Poetic Like Me. For those listening on our, and check this out on our SoundCloud page, we'll have a link to her website and also where you can get the book, Poetic Old Soul. Let me ask you now about becoming a writer, and a lot of people write first books. Very few people write second books. So you're a writer now. You are officially in the club, so to speak.
Absolutely.
When did you find your voice? I mean, a lot of people, and I get to talk to a lot of artists and entertainers, and so I always kind of ask them, when did you kind of transition from being inspired by people and everybody has their muse and people that really gets them going, whether it's an artist or whatever, and then finding your own voice to where now you are unique in a sense of what you have to say?
That is a great question. That is an awesome question. Well, finding my own voice, it's like this. I've always been a loner, and I've always just stayed to I stayed to myself, and I played a lot of my records and just, spending time with my mother, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, and I always write. It was like a release for me. And when I write, I'm like, okay, I really want to share this. And it went from writing to sharing at spoken word places that I didn't even know exist. Of course, I find them out online. And then my aunt, I thank her so much. She introduced me to Listen and Be Heard in Vallejo back in the day. And I just started just releasing. It's like therapy to me when I spit my poetry, and even when I shared it online, folks were telling me, Tiff, you need to get published. You need to get published. And they've just been telling me this over and over and over. So one day I just felt this, I don't know, Spirit was telling me, you should release a chapbook. And as quiet as it's kept, I actually created this chapbook. And it was my, I guess you could say that's my first book, or well, it was actually my first chapbook, self-published. I put it together, and it's called Versatility Introducing Poetic Old Soul. And and I had fun releasing that and just sharing it and everything. It was awesome. But I don't know. I don't know how to describe this. Writing, I almost became a chef, I should say. I almost went into culinary school. And for some reason, that just completely shifted. I don't know. Writing just grabbed me. Words grabbed me. I love learning new words. And it's probably because it has a lot to do with the fact that I was in special ed and resource classes and pulling myself out of that back in the 8th and 9th grade and I was just, I don't know, fascinated by words. And so I'm like, you know what, Tiff? You need to make something out of this, I mean, it wasn't about, let me make money out of this. No, I just wanted people to listen to me and hear me and just be like, wow, I'm inspired by this young woman, this poetic old soul. And now that I'm this writer, I did not expect for all this to happen. I mean, it's a trip how I met my publisher, Azan Kamau. Shout out to her. She's the CEO of Glover Lane Press, and I met her through Facebook in a group. And so, when I don't know, I saw her name, I went to her page, and I was like, wait a minute, she's going to be my publisher. She's the one. She's the one. I'm like, I want my book to be officially published with a cover and everything. And I'm like, she's the one. She is it. She's going to make me a published author. And sure enough, she did. And I thank her so much. Shout out to her. So, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's just meant for me to be this artist that the author that I am in the Bay Area. I was raised in the whole artsy community. I mean, my mother, she was an artist. My aunt, she always took me to Berkeley on Telegraph on the weekends when I was a little girl. My uncle, James Tyrone Wallace II, he's an actor. I went to his plays. I mean, I was surrounded by arts in a military family.
Interesting.
My grandfather was in the military, so it was just wow, just finding my voice. It took some time, and I just realized, you know what, this writing thing, this is it, and I want people in the world to know that I am here, and I want people to read my work and just be inspired and passionate about it, just be like, wow, this is some in-your-face stuff.
Well, the passion definitely comes through. But right before we came on, I was going to ask you too about, we talked a little bit about it. In addition to being a poet, there's a difference between, putting things on paper and somebody sitting somewhere reading the words versus actually having the artist speak the words and the power that comes in that live interaction with an audience in terms of like spoken word. for you as an artist, and I'm sure there's subtle differences, but talk to us about your work as a spoken word artist, and how you're able to even transmit more power from your words verbally.
Woo, honey. Wow. Well, there are some people who are writers, and there are some people who are authors, and there are some people who are spoken word artists. And with me, again, that's where the versatility comes in. I feel like I can do it all, not to toot my own horn, but yet at the same time, I'm a work in progress. And with me getting on that stage, I ain't gonna lie. I think everybody gets nervous before they get on the stage because, there's an audience staring dead at you.
Right.
You're like, oh my God, you try not to freak out. But I get this mindset that, F it. You just get up there and you do your thing, Tiff. You just do it and you give it your all and have fun with it at the same time, because that is your destiny. So I just, take that deep breath and I just get up there and I don't know. I mean, because I want people to feel the passion when I speak my words. I want people to feel it. I don't want to just get up there and be like, well, this is a poem called Divine Love High, and then be boring. No. You really got to put your all out there, and that's how I do it. I want people to feel my words once again. And so, and I love it. I love it with a passion. I love being on that stage. It's such a release.
We have a couple of minutes left, so and we'll get to the details about how people can get the book and your website before we close the interview. But you said something earlier in the interview that I want to go back to, and that's your record collection. I collect vinyl too, so I'm a vinyl head. I mean, vinyl records to me. I mean, I'm in the store, in the used record stores, thrift shops. I'm there. I could spend all day just going through old records, and you find the coolest stuff. What are some of your favorite vinyl records and some of the records that you like to go back to? And no record collector likes to give all his secrets out, but how do you collect and what do you look for?
Wow, you know what? I'm going to be frank. I have not. Look, I do have this huge record collection. It's some are from my own mother's collection, my dad's collection, my aunt's collection, of course my grandmother's collection, and of course a little bit of my own. And I ain't gonna lie, I have not been to a record store, and I know there's a few in Berkeley. I have not been to a record store in so long, oh my goodness, and I need to get back on it. And this one record I used to play all the time, and it was the soundtrack to Truck Turner by Isaac Hayes.
Yes.
I played that to death. In fact, there's a lot of records that I played a lot, but that one stood out because when I played it, it just gave me so much life. The fact that, you play a record and that analog sound,
exactly.
That digital, yes, that analog
and like
sound.
me, every time I play a record, it's almost like you hear something that you hadn't heard before. Do you get that feeling as well?
Yes, I do. There's just nothing like it. You see that record spinning, and you hear that hiss and pops. That's the beauty of listening to vinyl. It's just, oh man, I cannot describe it. It just gives you this high.
Exactly. One of my favorite hip hop producers was the late Jay Dilla, and he actually used the hissing and the pop as a sound. I mean, as an instrument. I mean, he would literally put that on some of his beats and things that he was mixing just to get at that analog sound. So I mean, it does bring you back, and it takes you places, and there's nothing like analog. So that's why I just wanted to come back to that, because I think you're seeing a resurgence in vinyl, and for those young folks out there who haven't been exposed, every now and then put the iPod down, go get your turntable.
Absolutely.
And enjoy. So
definitely, and just I don't mean to interrupt.
No,
but,
go ahead.
When my nephew gets a little bit older, I'm going to expose to him about my vinyl and, and about what it feels like to listen to a record rather than an iPod. Because now he's in that digital generation now.
Right,
he's
exactly.
only 2,
Exactly.
but he's in it now. And I'm like, oh, no, we got to bring him back, or bring him into the old soul in the old school.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like me being an aunt, I got to. I feel responsible. Oh, and a shout-out to my stepdad because he actually brought me into funk. Okay,
Uh-oh.
my mom and my aunt, and my grandmother, my grandfather, my family, they brought me into the R&B, but my stepdad brought me into the funk and the whole, thing of analog versus digital. And it's funny, though, this is a quick story.
Sure.
He gave me a USB turntable, and
Nah.
and he was right. And he was like, Tim, you should use that, and upload it onto your laptop, and and then you can use the program to take away all the hisses and the pops. Mind you, he was the one that raised me on this old school stuff, and I remember being in the car with my stepdad as a kid, and I didn't want to hear Funkadelics. I didn't want to hear Parliament or the Silvers or any of that. I didn't want to hear any of that. And but I had no choice.
Right.
And
right.
of course I was digging it more and more and more. So anywho, he was telling me, it will take away, that USB turntable will take away all the hisses and the pops. And I'm like, well, his name is Gator. I call him Gator. And I'm like, Gator, you're the one that raised me on the whole hisses and the pops, and that digital, no, I cannot believe you would say that.
No.
Exactly.
You gotta get a turntable and an amp and analog speakers, and then you'll know you notice the difference immediately. I mean, you truly do. And so I don't want to get too far off field, but I was glad to hear you say that because I think there are a lot of folks out there who could use that sensibility that. The digital age, I think the best thing about it is the access to music and the ability to customize, and it's really breaking down barriers with playlists and things like that. It's harder to categorize music in a way. But, that vinyl is nothing like that. So anyway, fellow vinyl addict, and I'm glad to hear you reference that. So we need to close the interview right now, but let me get you to let everybody know where they can get the book, your website, how they get in touch with you. So in case they want to further the conversation or pick up a copy of your book, where can they go?
Well, they can go to, I have a cheat sheet.
Sure, go ahead. No, you're supposed to.
Yes, PoeticOldSoul.webs.com, or find me on YouTube, youtube.com/PoeticOldSoul. Or you can find me on Facebook under the same name, Poetic Old Soul. Also, I have copies of my book ready to be autographed, both A Divine Love High and Poetic Like Me. So if anyone wants an autographed copy, people can inbox me at poetic.old.soul@gmail.com. Oh, and lastly,
Sure.
people can also order a copy. If they don't want to get an autographed copy, they can always go on Amazon. It's Amazon.com. All they have to do is type in A Divine Love High or Poetic Like Me. But yeah, A Divine Love High.
Perfect. Well, again, when we met, I knew I wanted to have you on because I could just tell you had that passion for your work, and that's refreshing. And again, congratulations on your second book. Again, not too many people can say that. They get through the first one, but this is your second book, so you're on your way, and you're going to have much success. And anytime you want to come on the show, let me know. Viewpoint Radio, we'd love to have you on. And again, it's been our pleasure having you on this morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You are very welcome.
This was amazing.
You're very welcome. You're not scared anymore, right?
No, I'm not.
All right, okay. All right. This is Viewpoint on More Public Radio. I'm your host, Eddrick Osborne, and we'll be right back right after this.